First up, we have Captain America. Captain America receives some pretty nice buffs. The first change decreases the time it takes for his steel to start regenerating by 1 second. It's not a huge amount, but it should help him play in and out more effectively. He also received a 2-second cooldown reduction on his Liberty Rush. Now this ability doesn't do a lot of damage, and it's mostly for mobility. Captain America mains like Curry have shown that his mobility is what makes him exceptional, so 2 seconds off is actually a pretty nice deal. He also gets a slight health increase, going from 650 base health to 675. Captain America is already really hard to kill, so this is really nice. The next change is to his ultimate. They actually slightly nerfed the shield regeneration by 10, but this nerf only applies to Captain America, and not his teammates that he gives the buff to. Captain America is pretty much unkillable already during his ultimate, so really this nerf shouldn't really affect him that much at all. And the last change to Captain America is a buff to his ultimate. It reduces the energy cost for his ultimate by 300. The difference between your ult being up for a fight and not being up for a fight is pretty huge in Marvel Rivals, so this is a huge win. And next up is a much needed nerf to Doctor Strange. He can kind of blow you up from a mile away, and it's kind of scary. This nerf gives his Maelstrom actual fall-off damage, meaning that Doctor Strange actually has to be on top of you to get his full burst. This would also make it a lot harder for Doctor Strange to one-shot your entire team when he lands his ultimate. The next nerf to Doctor Strange is a slight decrease to his recovery rate on his shield. Now this isn't too much of a nerf, but I think it should make Doctor Strange players think more about when to use their shield. Now the next Vanguard to cover is Magneto. He receives a slight buff to his team up. In the beta, Magneto's team up was seen as busted, and in live, underwhelming. Although only a slight buff, it should let Magneto reach a threshold where he 3-shots 275 health characters. Thor gets a slight increase to his base health, and he now gets added CC immunity during his ultimate. I honestly didn't even know that he could get CC'd out of his ultimate, so this is pretty nice. Hulk has been an absolute menace in high-ranked Marvel Rivals gameplay. His Gamma Shield receives a sizable nerf, going from 250 health to 200 health. Since this Gamma Shield is also AoE, it's actually a pretty big nerf to Hulk's survivability and team play. Although we thought Venom was going to terrorize at first, he's actually been struggling. His first buff is to the health that he gains on his symbiotic resilience, which should make him harder to kill. And the second buff is a small buff to his ultimate. They're increasing the base damage by 10 so that if he does use it when an enemy is low instead of at full HP, it can still maybe get a kill. Black Panther is also actually receiving a pretty sizable nerf. The bonus health he gets from proccing his mark is going down by 30. And the maximum health that he can gain from his marks is going all the way down from 120 to 75. Black Panther already has high base HP and is incredibly difficult to aim at, so I think this is a much needed nerf to kind of bring him in line. Our favorite Black Widow is also receiving some love. The range on her kick is increasing from 3 meters all the way up to 5 meters. This is honestly really nice because Black Widow actually has some incredibly lethal kill combos when she lands her kick. Her next change is to her stamina, and this one is massive. The time it takes for her to regenerate her stamina is going down from 12 seconds all the way down to 4 seconds. This will actually make Black Widow be able to play on her own and be hard to catch, and be a mobile counterpart to Hawkeye. And the last change is to her ultimate, reducing the charge time to go to full from 1 second to 0.6. I know a lot of people don't like this ability, but it actually one-shots with the Hawkeye team up, and you can actually use it in combos. All these buffs together are pretty massive, and I think this actually might be Widow's patch. Next up is Hawkeye. He actually receives a buff to his blast arrows. But a lot of people didn't even know he had a secondary fire because of how bad it was in Season 0. But the reduced spread angle should make it a little bit better for either comboing with ultimates, breaking terrain, or other structures. And finally, the most important change, a nerf to his passive. The nerf reduces the distance that he can trigger his passive all the way down from 60 meters to 40 meters. Also reduces the maximum additional damage from his passive from 80 to 70. This coupled with a 5% reduction to his seasonal bonus, vastly reduces the amount of damage Hawkeye does, even to the point where he no longer one-shots Mantis through her ultimate. Next up is Hela. Her first change is reducing her base health from 275 to 250. This change, in addition to her seasonal bonus being reduced, should make her easier to duel. And she also requires an additional shot to finish off 250 health characters. I think these changes will make Hela feel a lot more fair. Next up is Magik. She's receiving 20 extra damage on her dash, while in Darkchild. While not a huge buff, it should help Magik finish off more targets that have suffered a little bit of chip damage. Moon Knight receives some few changes to his ultimate, making it more reliable, easier to land, and to deal more damage. They increase the number of talents generated by his ultimate from 10 to 14. Now while this already deletes squishies, this will be a lot more threatening to tanks. And the explosion radius is going up from 4 meters to 5 meters. Moon Knight's ultimate drops talents in a predictable triangle shape. People on the inside can get hit by all talents, but sometimes people on the outside only get hit by one. This change should make it a lot easier for at least 2 talents to almost always connect on a player. Namor is also saving a minor adjustment as well as more major adjustment. The minor adjustment is to his eggs. They're kind of annoying to throw, and Season 1 will make it a little bit easier to aim where you're actually going to put them. His second set of changes is to his team up with Luna Snow. The frozen monster spawn is going to deal more damage, inflict more slow, and do more damage while in a berserk state. I already thought this team up was pretty strong, so I'm surprised they're buffing it more. As much as I dislike playing against Namor, I do think he's a necessary evil to have in the game against characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man. And if this team up provides to be too good, then we can always just keep banning Luna Snow. Next change is to Psylocke, which is kind of a buff. Apparently her ultimate did not check for barriers, meaning that if 2 people were standing next to each other and one had a barrier, all of her ult hits would hit 1 target. Now the enemy isn't completely protected if a Magneto shields his support, or if a Hulk shields his whole entire team with Gamma Shield. In Season 1, the Punisher gains adjustments to his recoil. They are slightly reducing the bullet spread on both his assault rifle and shotgun. You shouldn't notice this too much at closer ranges, but clearly the Punisher was designed to be a consistent damage threat that constantly puts out pressure. I think this just helps Punisher feel like he's doing his job instead of losing to RNG. Because nothing feels worse than having your cursor directly on them, but not getting the full bullet spread from your shotgun, or missing a full bullets at long range due to recoil. Wanda also receives some pretty nice buffs. While her left click is technically an adjustment because it does more damage against squishy characters, but less damage against tanks, I still consider it a buff because Wanda's job is not really to kill tanks with your left click anyway. If you're not a math guy but you want to know how much better her left click actually is, it comes out to about 5 extra damage a second against duelists and strategists, and losing 2 damage a second against vanguards. Her right click also gets a 5 damage increase. Storm also receives some pretty sizable buffs this patch. Her primary fire is gaining a 50% projectile speed increase, as well as a 5 damage increase. The damage increase is actually a pretty big deal because she needs 1 less hit to finish up 250 health characters, and the projectile speed is actually a massive deal. Storm's projectile speed is pretty slow, and it's pretty much impossible to hit moving targets without guessing. And the buffs to her left click should make her a much more reliable damage threat. Her right click also gets the damage increase going from 70 to 80. Chain Lightning only gets a 5 damage increase, but it gets a 5-second cooldown reduction. Chain Lightning can be pretty amazing for charging her ultimate, and coupled with the damage increase for her right click, it's pretty easy to snipe out a half HP squishy in the back. And her last buff is to her ultimate. Her ultimate is probably the strongest part about her kit, but the thing that I did not like about using Storm's ultimate is that after you're done, if there's anyone that's alive, you pretty much just die to them. The bonus health lingering makes it a lot easier for Storm to either get away or just straight up duel the opponent that is left after her ultimate. Squirrel Girl didn't receive many changes, but the one change she did get is massive. Instead of her ult bouncing randomly, it will now chain to the nearest enemy. This will make Squirrel Girl's ultimate much more reliable. If enemies are stacked up or close together, her ultimate will just run over their whole team. Now it does come with a drawback. Instead of the Squirrel Horde being 600 health, they will reduce it down to 300 HP, making it pretty fragile and easy to take out. Winter Soldier actually receives 25 additional max HP, which is nice for survivability. Also, the bonus health he gains from his projectile and his hook goes up from 30 to 40, making him even more durable. On top of being more durable, he also gains more damage, with his gun going up from 70 to 75 damage. That extra 5 damage should help him reach certain thresholds to take out characters at closer ranges. One trade-off he gets for this though, is that he gets increased damage fall off at further ranges, and the area damage he does with his gun is also reduced. I think this is an attempt to make Bucky a more close-range brawling character that is more durable and is more lethal at closer ranges, and reduces long-range effectiveness. We all know the strength and power of Wolverine now as a tank buster, but he can be pretty punishing to play for newer players or less experienced players, so they're giving Wolverine an extra 50 health, reducing the damage reduction from his passive by 10%. Overall, a buff. Her right click goes down in cooldown from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. This ability is really powerful, and so I really like this change. You can really use this ability to top off your tanks, or heal your backline while still focusing on your tanks, or just to save you from really dangerous abilities. So having this up more often means you're a lot safer and can live in certain situations you wouldn't be able to. On top of that, she gets a pretty big buff to her ultimate, getting an extra dash going from 3 dashes to 4 dashes. Keep in mind, you can overlap Cloak's ultimate, so an extra dash is another overlap that you can do for extra healing and damage. Or you can just use the extra dash to spread it out more along the point, or get out after your ultimate. Now our favorite baby land shark also receives some changes that will make a lot of people happy. His ultimate, instead of being a spherical hitbox, is now a cylinder. This means it will always reach a consistent height upwards instead of varying heights across its diameter. Will I still get hit by this ability? Probably yes, but hey, at least I know the shape. Jeff also gets increased healing on his left click. Luna is also receiving a pretty big change. A lot of players were abusing the scroll wheel tech to get the benefits of both healing and damage amp. After the patch, this will be a lot slower, making your healing rate go down and consequently a lot more dangerous to use. Mantis is not going to nerf to her ultimate, and frankly I don't think she needs one. She instead got a nerf to her passive movement speed when she's at full HP. It's going down from 2.5 meters a second to 1.5 meters a second. Honestly, I don't know why she even had 2.5 meters a second, as well as 275 health in the first place. She felt like she was almost impossible to hit when she's at full HP, but now she should be a lot more manageable, and it's a lot more in line with other characters. Racoon gets a buff as well to his healing per second. His repair mode goes from 60 health per second to 70 health per second. Racoon already puts out a pretty sizable amount of consistent healing, so honestly this makes Rocket even more of a desirable consistent healer. Rocket's last change is that his team up ability with Bucky and Punisher gets its cooldown reduced by 5, so that he has it up a little bit more often. It's not a big change, but hey, 5 seconds could make or break a fight. And that's it for the changes for all the characters in Season 1. The game is still new, and people are still discovering different team comps and ways to play characters, as well as new tech. Honestly, I'm surprised we got even this big of a patch, but I'm pretty happy. This is pretty promising to me, and it shows that NetEase is actually willing to make changes and try things out.